The first sound wasn't a bird or a car or the usual hum of sprinklers that marked our suburban mornings. It was sharp. It was metallic. It was violent. I bolted upright in bed, heart slamming before my feet even hit the floor. By the time I stumbled out the front door, slippers half on, coffee forgotten on the counter, I already knew something was wrong. Karen was standing on my lawn. Her posture was stiff, shoulders squared, the kind of stance that says, "This is my kingdom and I'm enforcing the law." Except the law in her hand wasn't a clipboard or a notice or even a fine. It was a hammer, and beneath that hammer, the shattered remains of my satellite dish. Cables dangled like torn veins, metal bent in sharp, ugly angles. Shards glinted under the sun. She'd reduced $20,000 of specialized equipment to rubble. Karen tilted her chin, brushing her hands like a villain dusting off the climax of a show. "There," she said, voice sweet but sharp. "That ugly eyesore is gone. You're welcome." I didn't answer. Didn't shout. Didn't move, because here's the thing. That wasn't an ordinary satellite dish. It wasn't Dish Network. It wasn't DirecTV. It wasn't mine in any ordinary sense. It was a government-issued emergency receiver. A direct federal channel. Part of a quiet contract I'd signed because of my background in communications. It sat silent for years, unless the world tilted, unless a catastrophic event demanded its voice. And now Karen's hammer had silenced it. The neighborhood was quiet. Not out of respect. Out of fear, every window blind seemed frozen in mid-twitch. Every curtain hung heavy but alive with faces peeking behind. Everyone saw the hammer. Everyone saw Karen's smug little victory, but no one spoke. Karen mistook my silence for weakness. She always did. "You'll thank me later," she said. "The board's been talking about this for months. You ignored the letters, so I took care of it myself." Her words were gasoline, but I didn't light the match. Not yet. Instead, I let the silence stretch. Because what Karen didn't know, what I already suspected, was that the moment her hammer struck metal, two very important things happened. First, the federal grid logged an alert. Second, my camera's mine, not the HOA's captured every second in 4K. Multiple angles, metadata locked and ready. Karen adjusted her blazer, satisfied. "This is what leadership looks like," she declared loudly enough for the cul-de-sac. "No more ugly, dangerous junk cluttering our view." I finally spoke. Soft, even. "Karen, that wasn't just a dish." She rolled her eyes like a teenager. "Oh, please. Don't start with your scary little stories. This is about neighborhood standards. The bylaws are very clear." She didn't finish, because a sound broke the air behind her, a low hum, a slow engine, a black SUV creeping down the street like gravity itself had called it. Karen didn't notice, but the neighbors did. Curtains parted wider. Phones lifted discreetly. The SUV pulled up and idled in front of my driveway. Two men stepped out. Dark suits, neutral faces, the kind of men who could ruin your day without raising their voices. Karen brightened, mistaking them for reinforcements. "Oh, good," she said. "Code enforcement?" "Perfect timing. I've just resolved a huge violation." They walked right past her. "Straight to me. Mr. Hale," the taller one asked. I nodded once. Station went dark at 0800 hours. "Civilian interference," Karen blinked. "Excuse me." "President of the HOA, actually." "I can explain." The shorter agent crouched by the wreckage, pulling out a scanner. He ran it over the mangled plate, the broken chips, the tangled wire. A sharp beep cut through the morning, registered, offline, tampered. He stood, expression flat, voice sharp. "Confirmed. Emergency receiver destroyed. Active serial now inoperable." The taller agent turned to Karen. "What you damaged was not consumer property. It was a federally commissioned receiver linked to the Homeland grid. Destruction of federal property. Title 18, Section 1361, Karen laughed. Actually laughed. "You can buy those stickers online. Anyone can slap a government label on junk metal." Neither man laughed. Neither even blinked. "Identification," the taller one said. Flat. Cold. Final. Karen's smugness cracked for half a second. Then she straightened, arms crossed. "Excuse me. I don't have to give you anything. This is private property. You can't just barge into our neighborhood demanding names. I'll call my lawyer." The taller agent didn't flinch. "We're not asking. We're informing." The neighbors leaned closer behind curtains. The silence was thick, heavy, alive. Karen sputtered, scrambling for her usual weapons: bluster, intimidation, authority. But for once, none of them landed. Not on me, not on them, not on the audience. Her voice rose a pitch. This is ridiculous. This is being blown way out of proportion. It was just a dish! The shorter agent looked her dead in the eye. No, ma'am. It was a node in the Federal Emergency Communications Network. And now it's evidence. Her face drained of color. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. No words. I stood still, calm, collected, because Karen thought this was still about HOA politics. But the reality had already shifted. She hadn't broken a bylaw. She'd broken federal law, and now the fallout was rolling toward her like thunder. The agents didn't leave right away. They circled the wreckage like surgeons around a stubborn tumor. Gloves on, scanner out, camera click. Small labeled bags that looked too neat for the mess Karen had made. Karen paced 3 steps left, 3 steps right, wearing the yard like a track she owned. Her shoes stabbed the grass. Her jaw worked like she was chewing nails. Are you done? She snapped. Because this is harassment. You can file whatever you want, but I'm still the president of this neighborhood, and you were, someone said from a porch across the street. A chair creaked. A can cracked open. Neighbors who spent years swallowing their words were suddenly finding them. Karen whirled. Excuse me? Greg, quiet Greg with the landscaping contracts and the khaki shorts, stood up. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Emergency session, he said. Board at 2. You should attend. Karen's mouth pulled into a grin that didn't reach her eyes. I'll chair it. That's not how it sounds, he said. The tall agent approached Karen with a tablet and a pen that wasn't really a pen. Full name, ID, statement. He didn't look angry. He looked like gravity, the kind of force you argue with until your bones understand their place. She tried to stare him down. It didn't land. Everything she'd ever won here, painting fights, mailbox spats, fines over holiday lights, was a plastic crown under a steel sky. At last, a mutter. Her name, her address, a birth date. Her hand shook. The stylus scratched. He accepted the signature without ceremony. Do not approach this work site or the homeowner. Replacement equipment will arrive under escort. Interfere again, and you will be detained. Detained? She scoffed, voice pitching high. For a dish? For evidence? He said. They left as quietly as they came. No sirens, no speeches. Just the soft authority of doors closing with perfect alignment. Karen stood alone on my lawn. My cameras watched her. So did everyone else? You think you've won? She hissed. I think I pressed record, I said. Her nostrils flared. She stepped closer, heels biting dirt. You don't understand how this works. You're not good at neighborhoods. I've kept this place together for 15 years. With letters, I said. And fines. And fear. Order, she said. Control, I said. For a second, the air went still. We stared at each other at the boundary line, my grass meeting her shadow. Then she broke away, storming across the street with a muttered, See you at 2. I went inside, closed the door, let the quiet hold steady for a count of 10. Then my phone buzzed. Restricted. The federal tone. Mr. Hale? The clipped voice said, Your site status is logged. A field investigator will take a recorded statement this afternoon. Do not discuss technical specifications with any unauthorized party. I haven't, I said. Maintain physical custody of any captured footage. We will collect a copy. Thank you. The call ended. I set the phone down and let my house breathe around me. Coffee sat cold on the counter, a small, ordinary thing that suddenly felt like a luxury I'd forgotten I had. I microwaved it and watched the mug spin. Minute 47. Enough time for news to cross a neighborhood. Enough time for rumor to become outline. When I stepped back outside, the street had changed again. The young couple from the yellow ranch house, always quiet, always apologizing for their toddler's chalk on the sidewalk, were standing openly on their driveway. The retired teacher 2 houses down had a notebook out, the kind with a soft spine and tiny, neat handwriting. Old Mr. Jensen set down his cane and didn't pretend to be checking his mailbox. Phones weren't hiding now. They had hands. Karen's door opened. Her clipboard emerged first, then her mouth, A speech started walking before she did. "Attention, everyone," she called, voice amplified by something in her throat that liked microphones and power. "Please remember that the HOA has rules about illegal equipment and dangerous protrusions on property lines. As your president, Were," Greg repeated from his porch, not looking at her. She pretended not to hear him. She preferred her own reality. She always had. "I had to act in the community's best interest. We cannot tolerate," Karen, the retired teacher said in that classroom tone no adult ever forgets. "You hit a federal receiver with a hammer." A hush spread like a shadow. Karen blinked. "This gossip needs to stop." "It's on camera," the young dad said, lifting his phone, not accusing, just tired. "It's on a lot of cameras," she faltered. Then weaponized volume. "I am trying to protect our property values." "By breaking federal property?" Someone muttered. Her eyes flashed. "Emergency meeting at 2, she snapped. Attendance encouraged, doors closed. Not out of fear, out of preparation. At 1:50, the clubhouse parking was full in a way it never was for budget talks or trash day memos. People brought folding chairs. People brought soda. Someone brought cookies, which was darkly funny. I stood near the back, a quiet pillar that had spent a decade minding my own business. The agents had asked me to attend and provide a factual statement if necessary, not politics. Facts. Karen took the head of the long plastic table like a queen taking a barricade. Her gavel, a little wooden thing with a chip in the head, hit the table like she meant to bruise it. "Order," she said. The room didn't obey. It waited. She started in her favorite place, certainty. "As you know, we have ongoing issues with unsightly and non-compliant equipment. I have attempted to work with Mr. Hale for months to remove an eyesore that—" "Point of order," Margaret said. "A woman with silver hair and the patience of granite. Today isn't about paint colors or flower pots. Did you or did you not destroy a piece of federal equipment?" Karen set down the gavel, lifted the folder. "Did the crisp paper move that usually puts people to sleep?" "Not today. It was unapproved," she said tightly. "On the property line, a danger. The board authorized—" "No, it did not," Greg said, eyes on his hands, voice steady. "We discussed, we sent notices, and then you acted." A murmur, soft, sharp. A man in the back, bald cap and work boots, spoke without raising his hand. "My niece works for county emergency management. That dish thing links to alert systems. If it's down, there's a gap." Karen's smile didn't reach her cheeks. "That's rumor." "It's not rumor," I said, "because facts are oxygen and lies cannot breathe them. Serial registered emergency receiver under contract. DHS grid node. Offline at 800 by hammer strike. Logged alert. Agents on site. Case number issued. The room inhaled as one. Karen pointed at me like a barb. "He's dramatizing to make me look—" "Doesn't matter how you look," Margaret said. "Matters what we're exposed to." Karen's eyes darted, hunting for the loyal faces that used to buoy her. She found a lot of faces. Not many boys. Greg looked up. "We have to vote. On what?" Karen said too fast. "On leadership," he said slower. "On competency. On liability." The gavel came down again, once, twice, off rhythm now. She tried to call procedural phrases she kept for storms like this. "Out of order. Not on the agenda. We'll table this." But the words didn't work on people who'd decided to wake up. Margaret stood. "I moved to remove the current president for cause." A second came before she sat down. A third followed like applause that forgot how to be polite. Karen's voice climbed the ladder of panic. "You can't, we can," Margaret said. "And we are." Hands rose. Not a few. Not a majority that needed counting. All but 3. Someone recorded the vote. Someone else wiped away a tear they didn't expect. Karen didn't slam the gavel. She set it down as if it were heavy. "I refuse," she said. "You don't get to," Greg said gently. She left. Not dramatically. Just left. The door made the softest sound it had made all year. I gave the board the facts they'd asked me to bring. Timeline. Contract copy without the black bars. Serial photographs. A simple statement. I did not authorize, request, or consent to any HOA action on this equipment. The HOA was informed that exterior changes related to this device were governed by federal terms. The board thanked me like I had delivered bread in winter. Outside, clouds had gathered in the kind of summer formation that looks like a threat and turns out to be theater. The air was heavy with storm and gossip. Kids rode bikes in arc shapes, curious, free, cautious in new ways. Karen reappeared on the street as if the meeting had been a dream she'd woken from. Clipboard again, phone at her ear. Some poor voice on the other end getting told that tyrants don't get removed. They regroup. She made it 3 doors down before the black SUV turned the corner. Even now, she misread the sound. She smiled at it. She waved. The doors opened. The same 2 agents stepped out first. Then a third, older, grayer, quieter, the kind of quiet that means final. The gray suit approached me. "Mr. Hale, I'm Franklin. We'll take the recorded statement now." Karen cut in with her hand raised like an elementary school answer. "And this is my neighborhood." "Anything he says about me?" "Ma'am," Franklin said. Voice without edges and therefore all edge. "Do not interrupt a federal interview." Her mouth clicked shut as if someone had found the switch. We sat at my kitchen table. The recorder blinked a patient red eye. He asked questions that felt like lines you draw on a map so you won't get lost later. Contract initiation date? 3 years ago. Serial? I read it off my phone. Visual access. Camera 1, camera 2, doorbell. Wide, mid, close. Time codes synced. Any prior threats regarding the equipment? Not threats, I said. Letters. Fines. Unsightly. Non-conforming. Dangerous. You learn the synonyms the way you learn the flags of countries you'll never visit. He nodded. He didn't write my poetry down. He didn't need it. He asked about the hammer, about the angle of impact, about the way the feed dropped and the grid sang alert. He asked about shouting. He asked about neighbors. He built a quiet monument out of small, precise facts. Copy of the footage? I slid over a drive. He labeled it with a sticker older than any of us. "Thank you." We stood. The interview had taken 23 minutes. Years fit inside it like furniture in a truck. Outside, Karen was waiting with a man in a discount suit and the kind of briefcase that promises importance because it's never been asked to deliver any. Her lawyer number 1, probably. You could tell by the shade of sweat. "This stops now," she announced, as if announcements were spells. "My client requests a cease and desist on any defamation." Franklin didn't show him a badge. He showed him a look. "Counselor. Your client is under federal investigation for destruction of government property. Threats of civil action are inappropriate. If filed, they will be dismissed. If pursued, they will be noted." The lawyer's mouth moved like a fish watching a hook decide. He lowered the briefcase. He lowered his eyes. He lowered himself right out of the conversation. "I'll be in touch," he whispered to nobody, and then he left her standing alone. She shook. For the first time, the shake reached her hands. "Do you enjoy this?" she asked me, but the question had no oxygen. "Watching me be humiliated?" "I enjoy the signal," I said. "And the quiet when the signal is clean." "You're cruel." I pressed record. She took 1 step toward the porch. Franklin's voice didn't rise. "Ma'am, step away." "You've been instructed." She froze. Clipboard lowered. Power dimmed. "Until further notice," he continued, "you will not approach this property. Replacement hardware will be installed. Attempts to interfere will result in immediate custody." "Custody," she repeated, like the word had bones she'd never noticed. "You can't." "We can," he said. And we have. They left. Again, no siren. Again, no rush. Authority isn't loud when it doesn't need your permission. Karen stood in the middle of the street and watched the SUV shrink until it turned and was gone. Neighbors watched her watching, a reflection she couldn't control. She went home and closed her door with a careful hand. Careful is what you do when you finally believe things can break. By late afternoon, the neighborhood had a single topic spoken in 100 voices. The Facebook group, normally a battlefield over sprinklers and coyotes, became a strange, focused newsroom. Someone posted a picture of orange tape around the new mount points. Someone else posted a long, careful comment about emergency communications, linking to a county page nobody had read before. A teenager clipped the hammer swing into a 10-second loop and added a caption that landed harder than any essay. "You can't HOA a federal node." It got 500 likes, most from people who still lived within shouting distance. I watered the grass because it needed water. Normal is a revolution where Karen is concerned. Kids drew chalk rockets and a chalk moon. A girl with pigtails asked if the new dish would talk to space. "Sometimes," I said. "And sometimes it listens." At golden hour, Greg walked over with the posture of a man who has news and no idea how to carry it. "She's out," he said, breathless like he'd run when he hadn't. "Unanimous. We posted the notice. You'll get a copy." He looked at my porch, at my cameras, at his hands. 23 years, he said. "You don't realize how heavy a person is until they get off your chest." "Breathing is weird at first," I said. He smiled like a small animal stepping into sun. "We're having people over," he said. "Not a party, just chairs." "Chairs are good," I said. When he left, a shape moved behind Karen's curtain, a gap, an eye, a hand. I don't know if she cried. I don't think she knows how, not in a way that changes anything. Some people only cry when they're angry at gravity. At dusk, the black SUV returned with a crate that looked like it should have music playing behind it. 2 techs lifted it out with practiced arms. Franklin trailed them like a calm shadow. "New dish?" I asked. "New mount," the tech said. "Reinforced." They worked with the quiet choreography of people who have installed more than they've explained. Bolts, seals, a cable run so clean it looked like a line in a drawing. Franklin signed a thing. I signed a thing. The tech nodded once at his phone, satisfied with a number only he needed to see. "Online," he said. "Online," Franklin echoed. They left a thin folder with 3 pages that mattered and 10 that didn't. I set it on the counter. I wanted to frame it, then burn it, then make it into a paper airplane and fly it over Karen's roof. But I did none of that. I sat on the step and listened. Night changed the street. Crickets auditioned for each other. A dog barked at a light that wasn't a threat. Somewhere, a TV laughed and nobody was fined for volume. The projector came out because someone asked, "Do you still have the footage?" And I said, "Yes." And then we all pretended it was for legal prep when we knew it was for oxygen. Chairs scraped pavement. Coolers thunked open. Kids were sent inside and did not go. We aimed the beam at my garage door and let it paint the truth larger than life. There it was, the arc of the hammer, the glint, the fall. There was the smug, "You're welcome," that had sounded like victory in the morning and like a confession at night. There was the SUV, the paper, the moment a title met a boundary it couldn't cross. Laughter rolled the way thunder does when it's not trying to scare you, just warn you that the heat broke. It wasn't cruel. It was a sound a body makes when a weight leaves. Phones stayed down. Nobody posted this one. Some victories are local on purpose. Across the street, her porch light clicked on, then off, then on again. A code. A flinch. A habit. She didn't come out. For once, she didn't hold a clipboard. For once, the street didn't belong to her voice. Greg raised a plastic cup. "To order," he said, then grinned. "The real kind." Margaret's silver hair glowed in the projector light. She didn't toast. She just relaxed, the way monuments relax when the crowd goes home. I went inside later and found the replacement dish humming the soft hum of systems doing what they were built to do. I set my palm on the wall, felt the vibration, and thought of all the times a network carries a city and nobody claps. Karen doesn't believe in invisible heroes. She believes in clipboards. She believes in rules that bend like mirrors, so she only ever sees herself. But mirrors aren't laws. Laws are laws, and networks don't take orders from people who think HOA is a crown. Just after midnight, her voice drifted through the summer air in sharp, panicked fragments. Lawyer, injunction, ruined, reputation. Retaliate, a pacing silhouette. A phone pressed so hard you could hear plastic beg. I didn't go out. I didn't film. I didn't win. I sat in the dark and let the street be a street without a queen. The morning would bring papers. The board's notice of removal. The federal formality folded into 2 calm pages. The reality printed in ink that doesn't wipe away. It would bring a message from Franklin with a date and a time and a place, with beige walls where things move slowly and stick. It would bring the next part because stories like this don't end. They settle. But tonight brought something better. Bikes left on lawns without fear of citations. A wreath already hung crooked because a kid did it. A chalk rocket ship making for a chalk moon. A neighborhood remembering the difference between living together and being managed. The dish gleamed in starlight. Karen's blinds stayed shut. My cameras blinked their quiet red blinks and then looked away, bored. The signal was clean. You could feel it. Not in your phone. In your chest. Some people hear that and think silence. I hear infrastructure. I hear a promise keeping itself. And somewhere down the block, a toddler laughed at nothing. That's how you know a place is healing. When laughter doesn't need a reason. Tomorrow she'll try again. Of course she will. Power doesn't go. It hunts for a smaller room, but tonight the room is big, and no one is whispering. I closed my door and let the house click into its lock like a sentence ending. Out on the pole, the little LED shone steady, stubborn, satisfied. Not bright, just true. You can argue with me. You can't argue with the network, and the network is awake. Karen didn't sleep that night. You could tell because her blinds glowed on and off like a broken lighthouse. Sometimes they stayed lit for hours, then suddenly snapped dark, only to blaze back minutes later. A silhouette paced behind them, talking, gesturing, sometimes stopping dead still as if she'd heard something she couldn't control. And maybe she had. Because by dawn, the entire cul-de-sac already knew, not rumors. Not whispers, facts. Someone had posted clips online. Not the full footage, nobody knew how it leaked, but short, jagged pieces cut just right for impact. The hammer lift, the smug smile, the line, "You're welcome," and then the agent's arrival, stepping past her without so much as a glance. By breakfast, the video had passed from neighbor to neighbor, bouncing through county Facebook groups and neighborhood chats like a stone skipping water. By lunch, it was already on TikTok, cut to music, meme captions stamped across the frame. By afternoon, it had reached local news. The headline was brutal in its simplicity. HOA, President smashes federal receiver. The word federal glowed brighter than all the rest. Karen tried to fight back. She stormed outside mid-morning with her clipboard, shouting into her phone, dictating statements about context and misrepresentation. She cornered neighbors one by one, demanding they delete videos, threatening legal action, citing bylaws like charms that might reverse gravity, but nobody obeyed. For the first time in years, her clipboard didn't work, because fear is a spell, and once it's broken, you can't cast it again. At noon, the black SUV returned. Not 2 men this time, 3, and one wore the weight of rank without saying a word. They didn't come to my porch. They went to hers. The knock was sharp, official, the kind that makes every curtain twitch in unison. Karen opened the door, already talking, already swinging her voice like a sword. "I'm in the middle of a conference call." "This is harassment, pure harassment." "Ma'am," the tall agent said flatly, "step aside. This is a recorded interview." She tried to stand her ground, but the doorframe betrayed her. Neighbors watched from porches and driveways as she was guided inside her own home by men who did not raise their voices, did not lose their patience, and did not care about her title. For nearly 2 hours, the cul-de-sac became a waiting room. People lingered outside, walking dogs that didn't need walking, carrying mail that had already been read, holding conversations in murmurs that never strayed too far from the same subject. Karen. At one point, Margaret crossed the street with a thermos of coffee and handed me a cup like we were co-conspirators in a silent rebellion. "She's unraveling," she said softly. I nodded. She's always been unraveling. We just didn't hear the thread snap until now. When the door finally opened, Karen emerged. She wasn't polished anymore. Her hair frizzed in the humidity. Her lipstick smeared into lines that made her look less like a leader and more like a fighter who'd gone 3 rounds too many. Her voice was sharp, brittle, a knife made of glass. "They're harassing me!" she shouted, looking around for an audience. "They're twisting everything I said. They don't understand what this neighborhood needs." but no one clapped. No one nodded. A few people raised phones again, quiet, calm, waiting for the next clip to go viral. Karen stormed across her lawn, heels punching divots in the grass, her phone glued to her ear. She called lawyers, reporters, maybe even the governor for all I knew. But power doesn't answer when it smells desperation. The board called an emergency meeting that afternoon. The clubhouse was packed. Not the sleepy kind of packed where people slump in folding chairs waiting for Karen's monotone lectures about paint shades and mailbox dimensions. No, this was electric. Every chair was full, the walls lined with people standing, phones recording, eyes hungry. Neighbors brought snacks like it was movie night. A few kids leaned against the doorway, wide-eyed, whispering in excitement. Karen walked in last, her armor cracking but not gone. She slammed her folder onto the table like a queen returning from war, gavel already in hand. "Order!" she barked. The room didn't obey. She launched into her speech anyway. The situation with the dish has been grossly exaggerated. I acted in the best interest of the community. I had no choice but to remove an illegal, unsightly piece of equipment that— "Karen," Greg interrupted, his voice sharper than anyone had ever heard it. "Did you smash government property with a hammer?" Gasps. Not because of the question, because of who asked it. Greg, the landscaping guy who never raised his voice above a mumble, was standing up to Karen in front of everyone. Her jaw locked. It wasn't government property. That's misinformation. It was an unsightly hazard that violated bylaws and endangered property values. "Bylaws don't override federal law," Margaret said coldly. "If it was federal, and it was then you acted outside your authority. You compromised the entire HOA," the room buzzed. Neighbors who had swallowed years of petty fines and endless notices suddenly found courage in each other. One by one, voices rose. "She threatened me over a garden gnome. She fined me for having a wreath on my door. She made my wife cry over a lawn chair." The walls echoed with grievances that had been whispered in kitchens for years. Now they were loud. Now they were evidence. Karen slammed the gavel again and again, but the sound was drowned out by voices, by stories, by laughter that wasn't kind but wasn't cruel. It was free. Finally, Margaret stood tall. "I moved to remove Karen as HOA president. Effective immediately." The room went silent. Then hands rose. One by one. Dozens of them. Karen's eyes darted, wild, desperate. No, you can't. This is my board. I built this community." But the truth was undeniable. Her reign was over. She stormed out, the gavel left behind like a broken crown. The door slammed hard enough to rattle windows. The board sat in silence for a moment, stunned by their own courage. Then Greg whispered, almost reverent, "She's gone." The word spread like wildfire. She's gone. But I knew better. Karen wasn't gone, not yet. Karen never accepts defeat. She only plots her next move. And sure enough, by evening she was back on my lawn. Not with a hammer this time. With a clipboard. With her voice raised to the heavens, calling out to anyone who would listen. "This man is lying. He's manipulating all of you." That wasn't federal property. It was a toy. "He's playing you like fools." I leaned against my porch railing. Calm, coffee in hand. "Karen, I have 3 angles in 4K that say otherwise. The agents have copies. Want me to project it on the garage for the neighbors? Big screen. Popcorn optional." A ripple of laughter rolled through the crowd gathering on the sidewalk. Karen flushed red, her voice cracking. "You think this is funny? You're destroying my life with lies." "Correction," I said evenly. "You destroyed your life with your hammer. I just pressed record." Before she could lunge, the black SUV rolled in again. Same agents. Same calm authority. But this time, they weren't here to investigate. "Ma'am," the taller one said firmly, "you are hereby issued a federal notice of investigation. Until further notice, you are not to approach this property. Any violation will result in immediate arrest." The street fell silent. Neighbors lined the sidewalks, phones raised, capturing every second. Karen sputtered, desperate. "You can't ban me from my own neighborhood." "This isn't a neighborhood issue anymore," the agent said. "This is federal." And just like that, the fear she once inspired flipped on its head. The queen had no crown. The tyrant had no subjects. The woman with the hammer had become the woman with no power. The street woke up laughing. Not loud laughter. Not cruel. The kind that leaks out of people when a weight slips off the chest they forgot was there. Clips were everywhere. Not the whole feed, just the 10 seconds that hurt. Hammer up, hammer down. You're welcome. Freeze frame on the smile that used to make people shrink. Someone added text. You can't HOA a federal node. It's stuck like a sticker you can't peel. Karen tried to stem the tide with her clipboard. A paper shield in a rainstorm. She called it misrepresentation. She called it slander. She called it cyberbullying. She called it everything except what it was, truth. By midday, the local station parked a van at the end of the block. They pointed a camera, but the neighborhood didn't perform. Nobody wanted to be a quote. Everyone wanted to be a witness. A reporter approached me on the sidewalk. Sir, comment? No, I said. We're giving statements in the right rooms. They nodded. Respect. Karen gave a comment anyway. She always did. She stood at the property line and aimed her voice at the lens. Words poured out like she could drown the fire. Context, she said. Unsightly, she said. Leadership, she said. The anchors cut it to 6 seconds. The clip did not help her. Late afternoon brought clouds with edges like knives, a heat that wouldn't break, a breeze that didn't cool anything, just moved it. I sat on the porch with a cold glass sweating on the rail. Greg joined me with a bag of pretzels and a look of someone practicing how to sit like a free man. We set the special election for 2 weeks out, he said. Good, I said. People want it done, he said. They want it legal. They want it boring. Boring is underrated, I said. Across the street, Karen paced with her phone. Her voice floated in pieces. Counsel, per se. Injunction. Emergency hearing. A language of power spoken by someone who'd lost the accent. At 5, a gray sedan arrived and outstepped lawyer number 2. Sharper suit. Sharper haircut. Sharper eyes that scanned for cameras and found 20. He kept his voice low on her steps, but low isn't quiet when the neighborhood has learned to listen. Karen jabbed the air with a finger. He watched her, then he watched us, then he watched the street like a chessboard. They came to my porch. He smiled professionally. Evening? I represent Miss Caraway. Karen flinched. She hated hearing her own name without the crown. He continued. Miss Caraway wishes to resolve any misunderstandings neighbor to neighbor. Perhaps a mutual non-disparagement agreement pending the outcome of, No, I said. Karen exploded. You arrogant. You don't even know what we're Karen, he said, not unkindly, but with a hand signal that says, you are the client and the liability. He turned back. Sir, public statements can inflame situations. I haven't made any, I said. He paused. Your neighbors are free people, I said. And so are you. And so am I. But there's a federal file now, and you know it. He held my eyes a beat too long. He knew it. Good evening, he said. He left with Karen whisper shouting at his back. The sedan turned the corner and took his briefcase with it. An hour later, the sky decided it was done pretending. Thunder rolled in low, a big drum far away, and then not far at all. Before the first drop hit, my phone buzzed with a tone I didn't choose. The emergency net spoke. A severe cell. Rotation indicated. River rise potential. Outflow winds sharp enough to strip a flag. Phones lit up across the block like synchronized lightning. Screens filled with the same words, the same map, the same instruction that saves you when you don't feel saved. The new receiver on my wall hummed politely. Not loud, just sure. Neighbors moved like they'd rehearsed all their lives for this one song. Trash cans under eaves, porch furniture pulled back. Gutters cleared by hands that didn't wait for a notice. Kids shepherded inside with the promise of hot chocolate, even if it was August. Across the street, Karen stood in her doorway, stunned. Her phone dinged the same warning. She looked at it like it had betrayed her. Then she looked at the new dish like it had. The rain came down in sheets, not drops. Sidewalks disappeared. The air tasted like metal. Wind slapped the street sign so hard it rang. Something cracked in a yard 3 houses down. An old limb finally letting go after years of pretending to be younger. Lightning stitched the sky in white threads. In the seam between strikes, a sound cut through a siren. Not police, not fire. The old civil tone from the middle school miles away, the one you forget about until you don't. The storm moved across us like a hand pushing chess pieces. Then it was gone. Not apologetic, just finished. We stepped back outside into air that had finally remembered how to breathe. Gutters spat the last of their brown water. Leaves glued themselves to cars and then regretted it. Headlights approached slow. Not black SUV. White county truck with a magnetic seal on the door and a long antenna wagging like a finger. A tech I'd never seen hopped out, boots muddy, clipboard reel. He nodded at me, then at the dish, then at his tablet, then at the sky. Good, he said. What's good? Greg asked. Everything that should have fired, fired. We'll pull logs, but you were covered. He tipped an invisible hat at the dish. Welcome back. He left as a stranger who wasn't. Because some strangers are holding your day together from far away and they never ask for cake. After the storm, the air had that smell, wet earth and hot asphalt and a promise. The block turned into a debrief without a moderator. Your downspout backed up? Lost a shingle. Tree's okay. Basement dry. And the alert hit right on time, someone said. And everyone nodded, and nobody said thank Karen. They said thank God, and they meant thank the system, and they meant thank whoever didn't smash the next one. At 9, the black SUV arrived again. Not urgent, consistent. Franklin came alone this time. He walked like a decision. He carried a manila envelope, the heavy kind that only weighs one piece of paper but somehow changes gravity. Mr. Hale, he said at the steps. Evening, I said. We'll need you downtown next Wednesday. Statement on record, then a brief review. You'll have counsel provided if you want it. I'm fine, I said. You will be, he said, and somehow it wasn't a compliment or a threat. It was a prediction. He turned to go and then paused. He glanced across the street at Karen's house where a thin sliver of light cut the window like a scar. She's called 7 attorneys, he said matter-of-factly. Number 7 called me first. How'd that go? I asked. Fine, he said. For me, he left. No warning, no advice. Men like him don't give advice. They arrive and the weather changes. The next morning was one of those mornings that makes liars of storms. Birds like nothing happened. Blew so clean you suspect it. A small smell of damp. The good kind. Karen tried a new tactic. She dressed for sympathy, soft sweater, softer smile, and knocked on doors she hadn't knocked on in years without a notice in her hand. She started with Mrs. Patel 2 houses to her left, the one with the roses Karen had once measured with a ruler. 10 minutes later, Mrs. Patel texted the group. She asked me to sign a letter saying the dish scared our kids. I said our kids liked the dish because it looked like space. Karen moved down the block. Her pitch changed with the person. Property values for the retired CPA, safety for the young couple, community spirit for the woman with the book club. At each door, she tried to sell a different Karen. At each door, a neighbor remembered the original one and declined the new model. By noon, she stood at the end of the street and did nothing because there was nothing left to do that wouldn't make a meme. That's when her son arrived. No one had seen him in years. Tall, an echo of her chin but not her eyes, in a polo that tried to mean business and cargo shorts that said he didn't know how. He didn't look at anyone. He went straight inside. The door closed the way shame does, quickly. They stayed in there an hour. The blinds moved like people do when they want a fight to be private and houses refuse to be soundproof. Then he came back out, face red in a way that belonged to 2 emotions at once. He saw me. He came over. It's strange when the son of the person who's been trying to find you for a decade stands on your step like a boy who wants to borrow sugar. He swallowed. I'm sorry for the trouble, he said. It landed genuine. It landed heavy. Take care of your mom, I said. Help her choose quiet for once. He nodded. Can I ask, was it really federal? I looked at him the way you look at someone deciding what kind of man to be. Yes, I said. And also yes, he squinted. I only asked once, he said, when I was a kid, about what she did here. She said she kept the wolves away. I didn't say what I thought, that some people can't tell the difference between wolves and neighbors. He left with a slow walk that told the whole street he had loved her, and didn't know what to do with that today. The memes kept growing. They weren't cruel. Okay, some were, but most had the soft sting of communal humor. A photoshopped hammer with a tiny crown. A Karen's inspection kit with a tape measure, a gavel, and a blindfold. A screenshot of the weather alert with the caption, "Thanks, Dish." A blogger from the next town over wrote a piece, "When the HOA becomes the storm." It wasn't great writing, but it was good enough to travel. Commenters told their own stories from far away, which is how you know a local thing isn't. The board, suddenly leaderless and suddenly brave, set up tables at the clubhouse for what they called Repair Day. Not repairs to houses, repairs to trust. Margaret sat with a ledger and a fairness that would outlast all of us. Greg took names for committees that weren't punishment machines anymore. Welcome, garden, events, a safety group that coordinated with county instead of pretending to be it. People signed up with the sleepy smiles of citizens, not subjects. Someone made muffins. Someone organized a kid's chalk mural on the clubhouse walkway. A big dish pointed at a comically big star, all in neon pastels. I watched from the edge, a man with a stake in the outcome and no hunger to be the face of it. Karen didn't come. Late afternoon, lawyer number 3 arrived. This one came with a woman in a navy suit and a binder that could cut you. They didn't walk to my porch. They went to Franklin, who had appeared from nowhere like he always did, standing near the curb with hands in his pockets like they were empty and probably weren't. They talked quietly for 10 minutes that read like a whole book. Her chin tilted up at the parts where lawyers are trained to tilt. Franklin tilted nothing. They nodded at each other in the universal language of "we hate this," but here we are. When they finished, the woman approached me. "Mr. Hale," she said, all edges filed smooth. "We're seeking an understanding about social media, what's within your control and what isn't." "What's within my control," I said, has never been Karen's favorite topic. A smile flickered at the corner of her mouth. "Fair," she said. She wasn't unkind. She was working. "Tell your client to stop knocking on doors," I said. "Tell her to let the process happen in the rooms where it's supposed to." "I will," she said. "And Mr. Hale?" "Yeah." "Nice dish," I laughed. It surprised both of us. She left. Franklin stayed. He didn't cross the street. He didn't have to. I went inside and found the envelope he'd left the night before, the one I hadn't opened because I already knew what it said. I opened it anyway, a date, a time, a building with a floor and a room. The paper said what papers say when they intend to be obeyed: you will attend. You will speak. You will tell the truth. I put it back in the envelope. I put the envelope in the drawer where warranties go. By sunset, the neighborhood had slipped into a rhythm I almost didn't recognize. Kids on scooters, sprinklers arcing, a grill sending up its small holy smoke. No one checked angles. No one measured shadows. At dark, the projector came out again without anyone saying why. We didn't play the hammer. We played the storm. The county had already posted a public time-lapse, radar sweeping, cells forming, the alert pulse lighting the map like a heartbeat. We watched the weather tell the truth in colors. We watched the line bend around us. We watched the gap that never opened because the net did its job. No narration, no sound. Just a neighborhood watching the invisible rails we ride. Near the end, a small voice piped up from a blanket on the asphalt. A kid, maybe 5. "Is the dish a hero?" Someone laughed gently. Someone said, "Yeah." Someone said, "So are the people who fix it." Someone else said, "And the people who don't break it." A hush fell that wasn't awkward. It was gratitude. Across the street, Karen's porch light flicked on and stayed on. She didn't come out. A shape moved once. Then the blind settled. At 10, the group thinned. Good nights were said with hands, and with the small touches, neighbors relearn when the fear leaves. Margaret squeezed my shoulder. Greg bumped my fist like a teenager. I sat alone after they went, the projector fan spinning down, the wall returning to its normal face. My phone buzzed. "Unknown number. Mr. Hale?" A voice I didn't know. "This is Assistant U.S. Attorney Collins. We'll be handling the review. You'll get a formal notice tomorrow." "Understood," I said. "Thank you," she said, which I didn't expect. Your cooperation has been clarifying, the line clicked. I let the word hang in my living room. Clarifying, like a storm that makes the air honest. The next day, Karen found the one thing she still had, paper, and used it to send certified letters to half the street alleging harassment, conspiracy, and a dozen Latin phrases she'd learned overnight. They landed like paper birds. They did not fly. People posted pictures of them in the group with captions like, "Look, I'm famous," and "Free Latin." At noon, the county posted a generic statement. "We appreciate residents' cooperation with emergency infrastructure." It didn't name her. It didn't need to. At 3, an email went out from the board's new account, clean, calm, practical, laying out the rules for the special election and the interim process for appeals. No punishments, no gotchas, just a recipe for functioning. At 5, Karen tried to hold a press conference on her lawn. 2 people came. Both YouTubers, one with a drone. She gave them everything they wanted and nothing she needed. She called herself a whistleblower without a whistle. She blamed me, then blamed the board, then blamed the county, then blamed the storm. The clips did okay. Not great. People prefer villains who know they're villains or victims who know they're not. At 7, Franklin dropped off a copy of a thing I didn't ask for, a notice of preservation issued to Karen's counsel. Do not delete. Do not alter. Do not lose. I didn't need to see it. But seeing it felt like someone had installed a new kind of weather in our block, one with seasons. Night came like it always does. This time it came without that tightness behind the ribs. The dish blinked its steady rhythm. The street matched it, pulse for pulse. I thought of what I'd say downtown next Wednesday. Nothing heroic, just the sentence I'd already practiced in the way I live. She brought a hammer. I brought a camera. The system brought the rest. I went to bed and slept through the night for the first time in a week. Dreamed of nothing. Woke to birds that don't understand politics. Good birds. At 8, I stepped outside and found a note tucked under the mat. No envelope. Just paper, thin and trembling a little where the ink pressed too hard. It said, "I didn't know." I thought I was protecting us. I don't know how to say sorry. K.I. stood there longer than I expected. Not moved. Not unmoved. Just a man holding a thing that meant more than it would fix. I folded it once and set it by the sink. Then I made coffee. Then I watered the grass. Then I checked the Mount Torx on the new dish, not because it needed it, but because it made me feel like a steward of something larger than my lawn. By mid-morning, trucks arrived at the clubhouse with folding tables and an optimism I hadn't seen since the old 4th of July potlucks Karen used to permit like a queen dispensing crumbs. This time nobody asked her. This time nobody asked anyone who didn't need to be asked. A kid in a red shirt chalked a new line right in the middle of the street, a bright stripe from the cul-de-sac circle straight to my driveway. He said it was a signal. He said it made him feel safer. No one erased it. At noon, my phone buzzed. A text from Franklin, surprisingly plain, "Charges to be filed Friday. You'll get the official copy. No need to respond." I didn't. He didn't expect me to. The day carried itself like a tray that doesn't spill. Errands, a sandwich, a neighbor asking if she could borrow a ladder and me saying yes, like it's a language I remember. Around dusk, lawyer number 2 returned. Different tie. Same briefcase. He didn't stop this time. He went straight to Karen's door. He stayed 8 minutes. When he came out, he didn't look at any of us. He walked to the sedan and left, and somehow that told the story, too. The sun slid down behind the roofs and painted the street gold. Porch lights flicked. A bike clicked. The dish didn't glow, it never does. But I swear it looked satisfied. That's when Karen stepped out. No clipboard, no phone, no armor. She stood at the edge of her lawn and looked at the chalk signal running to my driveway. She followed it with her eyes all the way to the new dish. She let out a breath I heard from 20 feet away. Then she turned and went inside without a single performance. No crown, no speech. Just a door that closed softly like a person who has found the volume knob. I went in too. Wrote a sentence on a sticky note and put it by the envelope in the drawer, a reminder for next Wednesday, for the room with the beige walls and the clock that will tick too loud. Keep it simple. Tell the truth. Let the network do the heavy lifting. Outside, the chalk line didn't fade. Kids make things that last in ways adults forget. The neighborhood slept. The receiver listened. And somewhere far away, a system I'll never see kept a promise I didn't have to ask for. That's the part Karen never learned. Power isn't volume. It's the quiet that holds when you stop shouting. Tomorrow will bring papers and signatures and a courtroom where wood is heavy and people are small. It will bring a special election where boring wins. Thank God, it will bring another meme or 10, then a new story, then another summer. But tonight brings the thing we wanted even when we didn't know how to say it. A street that belongs to itself. A signal that doesn't care about crowns. A law you can't bend because it doesn't see you. It sees everyone. I turned off the porch light. In the dark, the red LED blinked its steady blink, not bright, just true. And more than enough. Karen ने अपनी पूरी जिंदगी क्लिपबोर्ड, फाइन्स और आवाज़न से रूल किया था. लेकिन उस दिन एक चीज समझ आए, क्लिपबोर्ड्स टूट जाती हैं, हैमर्स फेल हो जाते हैं, लेकिन सच और सिस्टम हमेशा रिकॉर्ड पे रहता है. वो दिश अब नई जगह पर चमक रहा था. एक साइलेंट गार्डियन जिसे कोई बिलॉज छू भी नहीं सकते थे. और कुलदिसक में पहली बार लोगों की सांस महसूस होती थी, हल्का, आजाद, बिना दार के. करेन अपने घर के अंधेरौन में बैंड थी. नेबरहुड अपनी रोशनी वापस ले चुका था. और मैं सिर्फ पोर्च पर बैठा था, कॉफी की चुस्की लेते हुए, और सोच रहा था तुम चाहे कितना भी शोर मचा लो, आखिर में जीत हमेशा उसी की होती है जो रिकॉर्ड बटन दबाता है.